Hello everyone! I'm finally back with another video. It has been a long time. I don't know why. I just didn't have the motivation, but now I do, and I'm really excited to make another tutorial for you guys. In this video, I'll be teaching you guys the basics of shading. Where do you put the essential parts for shading, and how can you make a Minecraft skin yourself? So let's just get right into it. First of all, make sure you turn off the outer layer, like I showed you, by clicking on that button. That's really important. I feel like a lot of beginners make that mistake, and they make it on the outer layer, and trust me, you do not want to do that. So, we're first going to start with the face. This is the face. Remember, you can do this with every color. I'm just using the colors I chose in this video, but this applies to every color you'd like. As you can see, I'm sectioning off the face area with white. That white area will be replaced with hair, but for now, this is the area you want to use for the face. So I'm starting with the main color of my skin tone. Remember, this can be any color. Now it's time for the eyelashes. I'd say like in almost every Minecraft girl skin, the eyelashes are right on this spot. As I marked with white, that would be the part where the pupil and the eye white would be. I'm going to use red to indicate where the pupils are. As you can see, this is the basic format of an eye. Now, what you do next is open for whatever you like. Commonly, the top of the 2x2 pixel boxes would be shaded with a darker color. As you can see, I just added slightly darker tones to the red and white. Now you have this basic setup. You can use this to apply your own colors. As you can see, I'm gonna just apply my own colors. Next up is shading the face. So what we commonly do is add shading right in this spot that I marked with red. That's because the bangs will be overlapping on this area, and this will act like a shadow under your hair. This is the most common spot where people put shading. However, like you can see, you can also put it right here on the sides, and I will be adding some extra touches that add to my style as well. So from this basic point of view, you can start adding your own touches, but keep in mind where the basic shadows need to be. Alright, now that's finished, we can move on to the hair. I previously made this area white, and I'll be filling it in with the hair color I chose, which is brown for the skin. You can choose whatever you want. So first we're just going to start with the main base color of the hair, which we'll be shading later on. Now it's time to shade the hair. What we know is that hair falls down vertically, as you can see by the lines I'm drawing in the head for reference. This is how we also want to approach creating a hair shading. Of course, I'm going to be using my own hair shading, but with these directions you can create with any type of hair shading you want. We also know that at the bottom of the head, that's where the hair all comes together, right? So that's where the darkest shadow would be as well. So that's why often you see those darker shadows more at the bottom. At the top we want to keep it more light, because that's where the light would touch if it were shining on the top of your head as well. So now I'll just be adding more highlights in a vertical way. What you want to keep in mind is that when you start making skins, I'd say limit yourself to using 3 to 4 shading colors. This will make your life a lot easier, and I'd say a minimum of 3 shading colors is already enough, and that's what I still use for my style as well, if I want to keep it more simple. So now I'm going to just overlap all those shadings, and it's time to shade the top of your head. Now we're going to apply the same logic. Think of how your own hair looks. Right? You have like a middle part in the middle, and then it would fall sideways in those directions. That's generally how you want to draw the lines on the top of the head. Doesn't matter how you do it, but if you just follow those directions, it will always look correctly. And this is my own version of how I would approach that. Shading the bottom head has a logic. As you can see, I drew a black line. This indicates the middle, or well, almost the middle of the skin. You don't want to go past that line if you're creating like the undersurface of your head. So you want to keep it under that line, because if you're going to be bending your head, you will see it and will just look not really right. So I'm actually making it a pixel smaller as well, but that's just a general rule to keep in mind. Now we can move on to the front strands of the hair. So you have a few options. Of course, you can make like straight hair like here, long or short, or you can make curly hair by bending the edges like that. Another way of doing it is deleting the outmost inner pixels, and then you have a bit of a more thinner strand of hair, which leaves more room for the actual clothing. This is what I'm gonna do for my skin, and that's also my style. I think you can just choose whatever you like to do. So now we're going to shade the front strands, and I think the only logic to keep in mind is that this hair is falling down vertically, so the highlights again are going to be vertically placed. Often it's going to be in the most inner line of pixels, like so. Those are going to be the most highlighted parts, and you can place those other highlights wherever you like. Shading the hair on the back may seem complicated, but whatever hair shading style you did on the back of the head, you're just gonna elongate that and put it on the back of the head hair. So that's basically what I'm doing. We have hair and face done, so we're moving on to the clothing. I'm gonna give her a pink sweater, and here is just a simple way of how to understand how to shade. This will apply to any type of clothing, so don't worry if you're not planning to make a sweater. What you want to do is, where I'm marking with the red again, that's where the main shading needs to be. This is where every shading part needs to be. The inner corner of the arm. This is where the arms and the body connect, and logically seen, that's where your armpit would be, and that's where shadow casts in real life as well. You want to make sure those lines are always shaded, and the rest you do is open for interpretation. Here's some detail for the bottom of the sleeves. This is a common way of shading it, like the actual real life stripes you'd have on a sweater, and this is the way I shaded. Has a little like a checker pattern to it. Those are some ideas you could add to your own sweaters as well. Remember what I said, shading though that inner corner, that's what we're going to do with the skin tone as well, and that's how you keep the look cohesive as well. So for the neck part, what I like to do is add a choker. That's the color of the eyelash. You don't have to do that, but that's just something you could do. If you're shading the neck, try and make that darker colors as well, because obviously your head is covering your neck. In drawings it would be shaded as well, so that's how you're going to do it in the skin as well. I think later on I decided to make that part a shirt, so there's like a shirt underneath a sweater, but if you were not to do that, this is how a possible way of doing it as well. Moving on to the legs, it might seem like a big surface, but remember it's two parts. We want to make sure the inner corners are shaded again. Remember, this is where your legs touch, so that's where logically a shade would be as well. This could be with like bare legs, like I'm doing right here, but this would be the same shading if you were to have her wear trousers or anything else. And I'm also adding a shadow under the part of the skirt, as you can see. This is of course because the skirt is on top of her skin, so naturally it will cast a shadow as well. I think a good tip is just, if you're confused as to where to put shades, just think in real life. How would it look like on you? Where would shades be in real life? And I think that will help you a lot as well. I've been repeating myself, but as you can see with the shoes as well, I'm just keeping that straight line that's been going down the legs consistent throughout the shoes as well. And that's how you keep your shading consistent as well. Choose where you choose to put the shading and keep that throughout your whole skin. And there we go, we have shoes, and I think that's the front finished. And now it's just time to wrap it all around the whole skin area. Alright, the skin is almost finished. The last thing we have to do is put on the outer layer, like I told you to turn off earlier. Turn it on now, because we will be using that now. First of all, we're going to start with the bangs. How do you shape the bangs? Generally, we keep those eyelash parts that I just showed, and now I'm going to show you ways to shape a bang. This is a very common bang you see a lot on Name MC. This is one way to do it, and you can just add pixels here and there. You can remove pixels here and there, like I do for example here, where you delete one pixel above the eyelash right now, and you can choose any variation on that, but remember the general shape of bangs would be like so. This is another example of how to shape bangs, but remember there's a lot of freedom in this process. Now we have the bangs, it's time for the little pigtails that I'll be marking as red again. I think this is just a very common shape that a lot of people like to do. I think this adds a bit of dimension to the hair. When putting overlay on the hair, try to minimize it because it will look very chunky, so I think these pigtails are a great way to add some overlay and not overdo it. As you can see, I'm just giving them the shape I usually do, and I think this is what a lot of people do. And after that, you're gonna have to just color it in with the colors that's underneath the overlay, so just the regular colors of the hair. Moving on to the overlay that we'll be putting on the hair on the torso. What I like to do is keep those highlighted strands all fully with overlay, and I like to add just a few strands on the side like I'm doing here to show that it's sitting on top of the body and that it's actually like sticking out from the sides. I think that's what you want to do with overlay. The goal of overlay is to show that it's actually sitting on top of the skin and show that's not one flat surface. So think about clothing items, hair, and stuff like that. So you don't want to put overlay on the skin because in real life that wouldn't be three-dimensional either. Like I said, we want to add overlay in a realistic way, so I'm going to add where I marked it with the red spots. That's where I'm going to add some overlay to the sleeves. This is where, realistically seeing, the wrinkles of your actual sweater would be, and this is where you can see they like pop out a bit, and that's what I'm trying to do with this overlay as well. I think last but not least is adding some overlay to the shoes. As you can see, I'm leaving the corners empty. Where I put the red pixels, that's where I don't put any overlay. As you can see, this makes it a bit more round, and if you want to achieve a more round look, that's how you do it. You just leave the pixels on the corners empty and then fill in the rest, and it'll give you the effect that a shoe would have as well. Alright, we're all done, and there's your finished skin. I hope you guys learned something from this, and I think my next tutorial will be on colors, so stay tuned for that. I hope you have an amazing day, and thank you so much for watching. Bye bye!